when we're shooting at a paper target constantly, that does nothing to help you when we call it armed judgment. We teach you to look at the hand, because it is a lot different when somebody has a gun or a cell phone. And some other parts of our training is we also teach you to use both hands. So you will fire equally with your right and your left hand throughout our force. Because the idea is that you want to put the gun between yourself and the threat. So if you're moving, from right to left, the gun will be in your right hand between you and the threat, and vice versa. If you were moving from left to right, you would want the gun between you and the target. It just makes sense.
Hello, and welcome to the WGOAA podcast. My name is Amara Barnes, and I am very excited to welcome Ashley Worlock out of Shady Valley, Tennessee, to our interview today. Ashley's one of those women who's for lack of a better term, an all-around American badass. She is a retired Army major in psychological operations and has done multiple rotations through Afghanistan. And as if that wasn't interesting enough, she and her husband have also founded a 360-degree tactical training facility out in Tennessee. And so she's a mom, she's a grandma, she's an all-around powerhouse, and I just can't wait to hear from her. And so, Ashley, I would love for you to just tell us, what were you like as a little kid, and what happened along the way to turn you into who you are?
Oh, wow. Well, thank you, Amara, first of all, for having me here. And this is my first podcast interview, so I just want to put that out there as a disclaimer. So I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, born and raised there in the city. It's not never wanted to go back there and live, and it got worse. But I was a city girl, went to a city high school. I was a tomboy. I had my best friends were the boys. I always wanted to play the wiffle ball game, but they wouldn't let me play. So I was a catcher all the time. I just always was involved in sports, and so very athletic. And then I always had just a desire to serve the country. And so that did not come about until college. So after high school, I got accepted into Syracuse University, where I majored in aerospace engineering. My goal was to become an astronaut. So, but for 4 years in the engineering program, you just literally live in the computer lab, and it was intensive, and I didn't want my parents to pay for my college education, and I ran out of money. And I remember to this day, I was running around a track, and I was trying to figure out what am I going to do, because during the summer I had just this job as a waitress, and if I quit now, all of my payments for school, all the loans would be due, and I wouldn't have survived. And so it just dawned on me that I had recently seen a commercial about how you can join the military, join the Army, and they'll pay back the student loans. And so I knew right then at that moment, that's what I wanted to do. And so.
And you're about how old at that time?
I was 22.
Okay.
22 when I enlisted. Yes. Yes, I enlisted, and it was November. My parents were not too happy when I told them.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just not pro-military, or just didn't want that for you?
Both. At that time, both. My mom, because I told her I had to have a family meeting, and she said to me, "Don't tell me that you're going to join, the Army." And I was like, I had to lie. I was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So, but now she is totally pro-military. She's so supportive. She still goes and does the honor flights in Maryland. She's still up in Maryland. She does the honor flight. So I'm really proud of my mom.
What's an honor flight?
So the honor flight, the government, they'll take and fly for free veteran, especially like the World War II veterans, up to DC for all of their Vietnam veteran walls. And so, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
I think since after 9/11, they really started it.
Yeah. So I find your story very inspiring. I've been thinking a lot about the things that we've talked about. And to get as far as you did in the Army and the psychological operations part, I find that super intriguing and really interesting. I'd love to know your experience, if you can expand on it, what it was like as a woman in the military, and did you have to compensate a lot for being a woman, or like what was that like?
Wow. Yes. So all of the above. It was very intensive. So joining the joining the military, that's a man's world. Well, I got thrown in I had no idea. My first duty station was Korea. And then after that, I had to because I was airborne, I had a pinpoint assignment back to Fort Bragg in the psychological operations group. I had no idea what that was. So, when I came back to Bragg after Korea, the psychological operations group falls under the umbrella of special operations. So you have civil affairs, special forces, and psychological operations. So it's like the elite part of the military and the special operations. So immediately coming back and being airborne, there's still, you have a small number of females, more now, but still a smaller number of females that actually go through airborne school than men. So again, the military is it was what, men dominated. The special operations community is definitely men dominated type A personality. So you have a lot of the elite of the elite. And
would you say you're type A?
I yes.
Yeah.
I'm type A, married a type A. So that drove me a lot. I always wanted to do my best. I hated to be last. A lot of times I outran their men, the boys, whatever, soldiers.
Right.
I was always the fastest female. I hated to have any other person score better than me or run faster than me. That's what it personally drove me, but not to the point where I was super competitive with it. It was almost an internal drive a lot of times. So because of not having a high number of females in the special operations community, those that are there, you kind of bond together because you realize that you are dealing with a lot of the type A personality. So it was so rewarding, though, being there in that community. I got to do stuff more so than the conventional Army. I got to do a lot of civilian type training and extra training, different deployments, and it helped shape me to who I am today. So,
Well, given your personality and what I know about myself, like I'll be going about life and just kind of approaching life as I do, and it gets you where you want to go. But was there like a moment you can think of that stands out as a defining moment when you stepped into your power, would you say?
So I had to read that question a couple times because I really didn't think about stepping into my power. Like I was trying to figure out, okay, what exactly would that be? And I would say,
like I was born in my power. All good.
Well, no, because there was, times growing up, you just a little introverted. Well, I was, a little introverted, but like I said, I had that internal drive. But I would say my most rewarding and fulfilling and in the military is all about leadership, and so at that, I finished the captain's career course. So that is, I had about 4 years as an officer. And if I could backtrack, I came in the military, enlisted, and then I went to officer candidate school. And that was a couple months of training. And then I got commissioned as an officer. And so, so sorry, I lost my train.
Well, I feel like you've taken very proactive steps in your life to push you in the direction that you really want to go. Like you picked the Army, and then you picked to become an officer, and you picked psychological operations. Like these are all very, I would call them strategic movements on your part, which are going to feel natural for you because that's just kind of person that you are. You're pushing for that next level. I guess what I'm asking is like, was there a breakthrough moment when you're like, yeah, that feels good, or like that was really scary, and now I feel like I'm on the other side of that fear and I've stepped into a more powerful position for myself?
So I just thought about, so yes, so you're talking about pushing and I had a drive. So once you become a captain, you have to perform certain responsibilities, and one of them is a company commander. And not every captain becomes a company commander. So, and a lot of times as a captain, it's competitive. So you want to go and look at where you want to command. Well, I actually had a battalion commander who reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be the company commander, or it was the largest company in psychological operations group. And of course I said yes. And at the same time, I was pregnant. I was 5 months pregnant. So
Really?
he asked, yeah. So you do not take command as a pregnant officer. That was just like something that never happened. So when he asked me, and I mean, I would still run. Of course I said yes. I mean, there's no way I would have turned that down. And that was just,
they knew you were pregnant, right?
I was 5 months pregnant. I was showing.
Okay. Some women don't show that much at 5 months. So
I know, but that being pregnant in the military, because military, you have to maintain a certain height and weight and standards to become pregnant.
So how did you pull that off?
What do you mean? How did I pull what off?
Well, just continue your story. Continue.
So,
I'm jumping ahead.
He knew I was pregnant. I see, and I had gone before I was pregnant. I had gone to him before I was pregnant, and I wanted to go to. I was enlisted in this unit, and I wanted to go back as an officer. And it wasn't necessarily to be a company commander. I just wanted to go back to the unit. But when I went to his office to interview, and I showed up 5 months pregnant, my belly's sticking out there. And I even asked him my question. I was like, sir, I mean, I'm looking at my belly, I'm 5 months pregnant. And he was just like, yes, Captain Worlock, I know that you were pregnant. And I wouldn't ask you if I didn't think that you were capable. So that boosted my confidence.
Yeah.
That was such a blessing to me. And that was some of my best time, because as a mom, and I just love taking care of my soldiers, love seeing them succeed. And it was very rewarding. And I have that was when I was in command. And then another very fulfilling and rewarding position is when I was asked again, I was chosen to be the program manager for the cultural support team. And what that was an intelligence initiative in Afghanistan where women would train and they would serve alongside the elite groups in the special operations. So I went over there and I got to travel all around Afghanistan, visiting these teams and these women warriors. And it was very rewarding in seeing the capability that women were providing on the battlefield, especially in the intelligence and what they can do. And that really set a lot of the psychological aspects of the type of training that we do here at ATAC.
How would you say that is different from what the men were doing? Is there something that stands out as an example?
Well, so in Afghanistan, it became politically correct when we were over there, and the men could not talk to the women. Well, a lot of times the Afghan men would hide stuff and with their wives, children. And so also a lot of the women were around their husbands and they would hear information. So some of these cultural support teams, there was two different types of teams, but some of them, when they would go and talk to the Afghan women, again, a lot of the intelligence information was obtained by these our female soldiers talking to the Afghan women.
So let me make sure I understand this correctly. We're talking about like undercover infiltration tactics.
So there was two sets. One would do your night operations, and then you had the other set. They would go out and on day missions and go and visit with different leaderships. And they had medical tents, medical camps that these ladies would put up, and a lot of the Afghan women would come and get treatment and stuff like that. And so it was, you kind of build a relationship, and then they would gather some information from these women. So
do you feel like they're pretty forthcoming, or you have to be really sneaky about how you get it, or
it depended on the situation? This would be a long
right. Yeah, we're kind of digressing a bit.
There's a lot of stories that are female cultural support teams that these women went through. So that they said how badass I am. These women also, they volunteered for that training, and they served tremendously over in Afghanistan. They did stuff over there that, I don't know if some of the men would be able to do, and especially dealing with a lot of the Afghan women.
Yeah, right. Oh, man. There's so much more to that. I have so many questions that I want to ask, but we kind of, like you said, it's a rabbit hole. Were you raised around firearms?
I was not. So, in fact, my mother was anti-gun, hated guns, couldn't even look at a gun. And so I never shot until I joined the military. Trying to even think. I don't even know if I ever shot a BB gun. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think I did.
So what was that like, your first experience?
Oh, I loved it. And
you did?
In the military, when we got to go to the range and basic training, and you go to range week, and you get to qualify on your AR. And so that was very rewarding and powerful, just to know that you're going out there, spending a day at the range, shooting an AR, and you know how to clean it, break it down.
Yeah.
Had to learn all the parts. So
did they teach you, I'm assuming they taught you on a variety of different kinds of weaponry. Can you expand on that at all?
I remember we got to throw grenades.
I want to do that.
Probably doing a lot here. I'm trying to basic training, that was so long ago.
Yeah.
And for the AR, we did not shoot a 9mm, and I didn't shoot my first 9mm until I was an officer, as Officer Paradise. So
interesting.
But we got to also shoot grenade launcher. I got to do that once. So, and then when I was on a training deployment, I got to shoot my first 50 cal on a training deployment. That was interesting. That was nice. That was, yeah.
You like the big ones?
So, yes. It was fun. It was definitely fun. And, well, you're bringing back a lot of memories.
My husband's always talking about how he wants to go out and get in a tank and shoot all the big things, and like, yeah. There's a few places I think that you can do that kind of thing, like in Vegas, but yeah. So I don't know, thinking about the things you're saying about the women in Afghanistan and how they, for someone who is, I don't know, in their own empowerment, like you're going about your life and you're not really thinking about like how brave of a thing that you're doing, or how impressive of a thing that you're doing, or any of that stuff. But when someone sees you, they're like, oh my gosh, wow, look at all these things you're doing. That's so brave. That's so amazing. And I feel like that's most women. They're like they're not living up to even a fraction of their full potential. And one of those things that I love about firearm training is that it's a great springboard for getting over your fear for something and kind of propelling you into the next stage of your life, into the next powerful phase of your life. I think it's a great starting point. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. I think women are naturally, so I know I said I went to college for an aerospace engineering, but I wind up getting a psychology degree. So, and that also leads to what we do here at ATAC, because we take a look at the tactical training side and then the psychological aspects. And that is right down our alley here at ATAC. And I absolutely agree, because I think a lot of times, see, as women, we know we can multitask. We can handle more than one thing at a time. And that is one reason why, again, the cultural support teams around, why the women, they were so successful, because they could multitask. It's easy for us to, do a whole bunch of things at the same time. I think for women, though, with the type of training that is out there, I mean, think about it. Your typical ranges out there now were developed by men for men. I mean, I couldn't even tell you when exactly the first female women's gun group evolved. I don't know if you know that, year, but, many years ago, that's not where we were, even joining the military. So I think that I have seen women who come through. We had women who came through our course as our guests who were afraid of firearms. But by the end of the training, they had the confidence that was necessary for them, and they were confident. And I think it does help with confidence. But I think that the proper training is required. I don't think that women are necessarily given enough attention out there when it comes to firearms and firearms training.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think in general, it's just not approached in a way where you're really going to be able to use it for self-defense should you need it. You've got the basic pistol class that hopefully everyone starts with, I guess. But then I'm just going to speak to my experience, and that's it. I took a basic pistol course, and then they just kind of set me on my way without any kind of follow-up shooting clinics or further instruction that I should receive. They didn't connect me with another instructor who maybe would have more experience. Or there was no follow-up information that I could just go and be like, okay, obviously that's the next thing that I should do. Instead they're like, okay, now just go to the range and practice. Practice what? Right. Stand there, shoot, put it back down. I'm not going to use my gun that way if I ever should need it in real life. And we're just teaching people to point and shoot and talking all day long about not really handling the gun in a defensive way. And I think that's a huge disservice. And I don't think that we're doing a great job of offering that follow-up information. And there's not enough access to ranges like ATAC. That's it. I think you have a very unique experience up there.
Well, thanks to you. Yes. So you're absolutely correct, because I don't think that there is enough out there, because realistically, like you're saying, there's not enough realistic training out there. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that Travis and I have strived for here at ATAC, is that we offer, 360-degree live fire training for, like I said, we've had women who came out here who've never fired before, but they felt the need that they want to be able to defend themselves. So you don't get that realistic training when you're shooting at paper targets with, I've seen recently the no-shoot targets have the hands up like this, the black hands on the paper target. And I mean, that is such a disservice, because that's not realistic.
Shoot your opponent in the hand kind of thing?
So I think it's more for a competition training where you have to look at these targets, and this means a no-shoot target, so you shouldn't shoot it. Oh. And then the other ones that don't have the black hands, you are to shoot. I see. Mm-hmm. So, but how realistic is that? So, at ATAC, we wanted to make it as realistic as possible. We designed our target mannequins that we build to look as lifelike as possible. So it's not paper targets. This is actually 3D. We can move our targets a little bit. And, the realistic expectation, when we're shooting at a paper target constantly, that does nothing to help you when we call it armed judgment. We teach you to look at the hands, because it is a lot different when somebody has a gun or a cell phone. And some other parts of our training is we also teach you to use both hands. So you will fire equally with your right and your left hand throughout our course. Because the idea is that you want to put the gun between yourself and the threat. So if you're moving, from right to left, the gun will be in your right hand between you and the threat. and vice versa. If you were moving from left to right, you would want the gun between you and the target. It just makes sense. You wouldn't want to fire, just kind of reaching around your body. So there's a lot of stuff that we were like, oh, well, that makes sense. So we call it common sense. We're trying to get off of that cycle of insanity, as Travis puts it. It's like, why, if you keep doing the same thing, Einstein cycle of insanity, you keep doing the same thing over and over, you're going to get the same result.
Right.
And and it just, like you were saying, it doesn't make sense, and there isn't follow-up. So there's a lot of going back to that, these firearms training was developed by men, mainly for men, and it wasn't really geared toward the mind of women. And we can handle so much more than men can. I've seen it at our range, because we can multitask. And
also, it's also what would you call it? It's a societal norm now, because you have all I can think of, 2 NRA or USCCA are the 2 most recognized certifications and courses that are offered, right? And so if most people only know how they are teaching, then they're going to accept that is exactly how we handle firearms, period. And so if no one has actually seen another way to do it, then if you're not going to be creative and if you're not going to fight that, then you're just going to go along with it. And so I think it's not just women that can handle a whole lot more. I think men can too, if they are shown how to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's one thing we've looked at too, the psychological aspects of training, is that Dr. Carol DeWitt is her name. She's a Stanford psychologist. And, she says you either have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yep.
The training industry at large is a fixed mindset. There's no room for growth. And we do just the opposite here at ATAC. Because again, we want to train y'all to look at realistically what's going to happen. And then having been in combat and knowing how you're going to react, pretty much when somebody's firing at you, are you really going to stand upright and motionless, shooting back?
Right.
And so there's a lot of aspects within the firearms training that it is fixed. They haven't grown, many years that it's been around there. It's just not growing. And so hopefully we can get more people, here at ATAC and that, and we don't push this information. We just provide everybody who comes through, our guests, that, this is why we do what we do. This is the training that you will receive. And then you make your own decision, what you're going to do. And a lot of times, if you've ever been in a high stress environment, a lot of times we react a lot differently than what we think we're down to.
Yeah, makes sense. Definitely. ATAC stands for Appalachian Tactical
Acquisition Course.
Okay. Yeah. And then just for our viewers who might not know what 360-degree training means, can you tell us what that is?
So what we've done here at ATAC, you will be able to move and shoot 360 degrees. So it's not just one directional. You will be, move. We have, we call it the ant farm, and we have 9 rooms in there, and we can change the sizes of them. And you will go through room to room and clear up to about 80 rooms. There'll be target discrimination, which is deciding, looking at their hands, trying to determine whether or not they have a firearm or a cell phone or a flashlight. And we do continual movement. So everything is kinesthetics. You will just keep moving and shooting. And again, you're not restricted. That's a good way of putting it. You're not restricted to just shooting one directional.
Yeah. And so there's going to be, of course, questions that come up, like if you're able to shoot in any which direction, obviously you're going to be paying attention, hopefully. But then do you have a place where you're watching them from, or are you following behind your person, or like how do you keep your people safe?
So our class size is anywhere from 2 to 4 people. So it's basic private training, and we actually prefer just 2 people classes. It's geared toward women and families. So we'll have a lot of families that'll come out, that mom, dad, and the kids will come out and do the training. So, and so our class sizes are small. So you get that one-on-one attention. So when we do the 360-degree firing, it's one individual with Travis, and they will go through our ant farm and and be able to shoot. So everything that we do here, we do a crawl, walk, run, and what that is that we will walk through it. We will dry fire everything, so and everything builds on top of itself. So I call it layers. We'll just add more layers to the training. So, and it's not as demanding or overwhelming as a lot of people. It might sound that way, but we move as fast as our guests are able to. And so a lot of times we'll like to dry fire about 3 times, but until they're comfortable with what they're going to perform, and we will work with them.
Okay. All right. That's, yeah. Is there anything else that makes your training facility unique? And also, how long are your classes typically? Is this like a long day seminar, or is this a weekend, or how do you go about that?
So all of our courses are just one day, and we'll normally start between about 8 or 9, and then we just tell people it just depends on how fast or slow that they move. So typically about 8 hours of training, and they'll shoot 500 rounds. And the other unique part about ATAC is that we provide everything. So all of our training is done with 22 suppressed firearms. And
that's very unique.
So, well,
suppressed?
Yeah. Suppressed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that goes along with, the purpose of that is that we're focusing on everything behind the firearm. So when you take the need for hearing protection out, you can better comprehend. Mm-hmm. So some of our philosophy is we go on the 4 C's. We want our guests to feel as comfortable as they can. We're inside. There's no more porta potties. So you're inside. We have refreshments. It's a collegiate atmosphere. So you're made to feel comfortable. And then once you're comfortable, you're better able to comprehend. So it's not high stress. We try to bring the stress down. So because once you better comprehend, then you become more capable. And then the byproduct of being capable is your confidence. So once we build that up, then you will better learn and better be able to use the firearm. So, and we, like I said, we provide everything. All you need to do is just make a phone call and show up. We take care of everything, to include lunch. Lunch is provided.
You're very much a destination location, a destination training facility. It's really cool. I can't wait to come and see it.
No, thank you. Yeah, I can't wait to have you out here.
You guys are seasonal from, would you say, October to?
So the beginning of May 1st until the end of October. Yes, it just closed down. So right now we're getting excited because we are refitting everything and getting ready for next year. And it's kind of bittersweet when we have to shut down and don't get any more, guests coming through. But excited, we tear everything down, clean everything up, and look forward to next season.
Yeah, that's totally different than what we've got going on out here. I think the universe is listening when I'm like, hey, let's go shooting today, because it's always that day that we get total crap weather. Like, I have froze my butt off more times than I can count. I'm just like, actually, it's making me feel like I don't like shooting, which is really not. That's not the case. I do. I just hate the weather that I always wind up shooting in.
Yeah, that's one thing. After being in the Army for so long and retiring, we're like, we don't need to be uncomfortable anymore.
I'm done with that.
All of our training is under roof. And so the only time really, our ATAC alley, which is part of our vehicle course, is the only time that you'll be without cover. Mm-hmm. And so, we're creatures that like our comfort.
Yeah.
Now that
I understand.
We don't have to suck it up, as they used to say in the Army. Just suck it up. We don't have to do that anymore. So it's nice.
Yeah, I like that. I feel like you have a lot of these, which is not a bad thing, but can you pick either an unpopular opinion or an inconvenient truth about yourself to share?
Oh, I had to look that up actually, because I was like, oh my gosh, okay, all right, wait, I don't know how to answer this. Okay, so I would say hmm, this is being honest and being real.
Please.
And if I had the chance to do things differently, I don't know if I would have gone through the military. I'm so blessed that I went and did that training. There's a lot of sacrifices. There's a lot of things that you wind up seeing and going through that you wish you never did. But the rewards are always there. So that's, I don't know if that works. I mean, that's kind of like a little, a bittersweet.
Well, that's really interesting though, because it was such a big part of your development and your own personal empowerment. And it did lead you to where you are today, which is full of, a lot of blessings. And of course, we all can look back and think, oh, I should have done something else. But yeah, it's definitely understandable.
So we are extremely happy, and the life that we have and the training that we were given. We say to a lot of our guests that y'all taxpayers paid for all of our training, and we just want to get that. We want to I guess in a way serve again is to get that some of that training that we received and to help other women and families out there to feel safe, especially nowadays and what's going on in the, in the US and around the world, and just being more situationally aware and feeling safe, especially with the firearm. I mean, we all know as women, I'm sure you probably have seen a lot of spike in the numbers of people who have joined, a lot of people who are first time, using a firearm.
Yeah.
My mom was one of them. So it was, I told you when growing up that she couldn't even look at firearms. So a couple of years ago, when she came to visit us, she asked Travis, she's like, I want to buy one, because she's still in Baltimore. She's like, oh, I feel the need to buy a firearm, and I need to get over my fear. Can you help me? And and he did, and he has a wonderful way of talking and to people, especially who have not been around firearms and feel a little insecure. And we love to have those type of women or family members to come through to do our training, because it's nothing that we should be afraid of.
Absolutely.
I think that the industry does us injustice of making the firearm to be this nitroglycerin thing that, oh my gosh, it's like they think of it as worse than driving a vehicle.
Right.
I mean, we can sit there and drive a 1,000-pound vehicle at a high rate of speed while listening to the radio, having a conversation. You might be drinking coffee or looking down at your phone and see where you're going at 80 miles an hour on the highway.
Right.
But you get this little firearm and whoa, oh my goodness, freedom is that they're always, loaded. Well, that's one of the things that we talk about. Well, how do you clean it if you have to treat it like it's always loaded?
Right.
There's no room for a growth mindset. It's like fixed. Well, that doesn't make sense. So then that makes us start to question all the stuff that they're putting out. And it's like, well, no, the best thing to do is to confirm the condition of your gun.
Right.
Don't treat it like it's loaded. You want to know for sure if something were to happen, or somebody were to come in your house, and you're walking from, the grocery store to your car in a parking lot, and somebody comes up, what is the condition of your firearm?
Right. Yeah. Well, hey, you just outlined your unpopular opinion. Which I agree with 100%. Yeah. Know the status of your gun. That we got to be saying it differently, because otherwise, I mean, what are you thinking? Like, you didn't even think about it. Think about the question. Think about what you're saying. And then firearms are still relatively new to me over the last few years. And so for me, when I was taught these firearm handling rules, I was like, really? Well, I mean, okay, I don't know anything, so I'll just go with what you're saying. But always in the back of my mind, I was like, that doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Great. Yeah. So how can people reach you? And should they be trying to book their courses throughout the winter, or, what's your website? What's the best way to reach you and arrange some training?
All right. So tacticalcourse.com, that's our website. We are on Facebook at, I think it's just ATAC. And right now we decided to do last year, and this year also we'll do Christmas, gift certificates. So if somebody, so we will print something out and send it for a next year's class. And then you can use that. It's like a voucher. So you could just call up and schedule, a day for the training. So most of the time our guests, we wind up talking over the phone so they can give us a call, and we don't have any online scheduling because a lot of times they call and have a lot of questions, and so
Of course, yeah.
They want to know more, and that's a way too. We love it because we get to know our guests, a little bit before they come out, and
well, that's important too. Yeah, it's your home, right? And so you want to vet your guests a little bit, and not everyone's going to necessarily be the right candidate for the kind of training that you're doing.
Right. We've not had any issues so far. So we do, again, we'll find out whether or not somebody has a concealed carry, and we'll do a background check, on individuals. So, but we've not had any issues, and we just ask that people pay for the class, when they come here. So we can take a payment over the phone, but most of the time we want y'all to feel though that you received service, so that you received training that was meaningful. And so tacticalcourse.com.
Okay, perfect. And we'll put all the information down in all the links down in the information below the video and everything. So if you need anything,
I wasn't sure. Yep. So I didn't want to spout out our phone number and stuff.
Oh, no. Yep. I won't put your phone number down there, but I will put your website and just how to contact you.
Okay, that'll work.
Mm-hmm. All right. Awesome. We'll go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us, Ashley. This was just amazing. I can't wait to talk again.